Welcome, everybody. This is the Business Builder Podcast, the second episode. We have in the studio with us, it's awesome. I'm just glad you're here, man. A brand new friend of mine. We're both in the BNI group together, and I have with me Dr. Martynas Matevicius.
You got it.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay,
you got
cool.
It.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us what Doctor of Chiropractic, has a practice here in Wilmington, GoodLife.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Tell us something about that.
Yeah. So my partner and I, she's also a chiropractor. Her name is Mira. And so we started the office together in April. And we moved here last year, 2023, in November. So we've been here for about 9 months now, and it's been an incredible experience, really. It's been up and down. Starting a new business really brings out the best in you, but also brings out all the fears, all the insecurities, all the doubts, and it's been an amazing process. We moved here to start a business, but what we're really doing is building a family and building a community, and that's what it feels like. So
Absolutely, man. So where did you guys move from?
from Atlanta.
Atlanta. Oh, hot
Yes.
Atlanta, man. I got my father lives in now he's in Woodstock. He was in Marietta.
Okay.
But I have family in Marietta.
No way. Yeah, I worked in Marietta and I worked in Woodstock.
Where's Buckhead in relation to those?
That's kind of like, it's a little bit more south of Marietta.
Okay. So but it's still like in northern Atlanta.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, cuz it's crazy out there. The traffic.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's 2 million people in the city.
Good grief. I mean, San Antonio is like 1.2. But that was a long time ago when I visited that place. But like, I hate driving through Atlanta, man. Like, I don't like to drive there. I just fly in and just go to where I'm at. But
It's always funny, since I've moved here, a lot of people complain about traffic in Wilmington, and it's for like 120,000 people. Yeah, I mean, the roads are small, but it's nothing compared to Atlanta.
well, the thing with Wilmington in general is that New Hanover County, it goes down to a point, right,
Yes.
towards the more southern you get, and so the river's on one side, the ocean's on the other side. So it does, like, the closer you go that way, it gets like tight.
Mm-hmm.
But then they've built all over the place, and they keep bringing people in. So it's like, if you're going to keep bringing people in, the roads are going to get tight. You better, you got to do something with them. So you mentioned that you guys just got here. We talked before. I know you said that you came from a place where you were doing a lot of adjustments before. What made you decide to jump ship and start your own practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. I worked at 2 big franchises in chiropractic. And the experience that I got, it was a lot of hands-on, but it was also sort of impersonal. I couldn't be authentic with what I was recommending.
Exactly.
There was a certain platform of things, modalities, therapies. There was a certain script that you had to follow. And although you're still able to, have freedom in how you communicate and what you communicate, it felt very restricting.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create my own systems, the things that worked for me, the things that actually helped me heal myself. And so now when I go to work, now it's not even work.
Right.
It's something that I enjoy doing, something that I love doing, because it's just a natural expression of who I am, versus having to like fit within this like specific, like narrow down approach, kind of like a watered down explanation of what we're doing.
Right.
And so both my partner and I had a similar vision. And so we explored all over the Carolinas, and we landed in Wilmington, and it's been a great process. I mean,
Where was the other notable mentions that didn't make the cut?
Raleigh.
Raleigh would have been a good market. I mean, Raleigh's huge, and there's so much money in Raleigh. Well, any place that's got an international airport, right, is a pretty good spot.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what though? I don't know. I think you made a better choice here.
I think so too. Yeah. No, things are expanding here. This is a great place to be.
And I know you've only been open for just less than a year, but there had to have been some kind of challenges. What was some of the ones that you faced, and how'd you overcome them?
Yeah, well, I think going into business with your partner is always a challenge within itself. I think the most difficult part of that was being able to manage the relationship and the business aspects and separate them. Because when we're eating dinner, we're always talking about business, and then it's like everything carries on. So being able to separate our time to build our relationship versus, just focusing on the business. Because then if you miss the relationship part, you realize that, the quality of the relationship diminishes, and then therefore the quality of the service that we're providing also decreases. So it all starts from within. One of my mentors would always say, your practice starts from within you. So it's like, who you are as a chiropractor is more so who you are as a person. And it applies to everything. It applies to martial arts, it applies to dentistry, it applies to podcasting.
Right. Absolutely, man. So yeah, it's very difficult when you're doing that, because you're right. If the relationship is its own entity, and then the art and science of running a business, especially as partners, as it's has its own set of weirdness to go along with it. And I mean, you better have some like boundaries or guidelines set up beforehand. And if not, you gotta get there as quick as possible, because it will be a taxing thing, Well, good luck to you guys for making it so far, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So as far as personal sacrifices, I mean, outside of that, is there anything else that's just jumped out that is, because, it's like when you go from being an employee, it's like, oh, you're working 40 hours a week. And then you go to being an entrepreneur. It's like, oh, now you're working for yourself, but you're working 60, 80 hours a week.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the sacrifice part started in school. I'm in my 20s and I'm in chiropractic school, and just like always studying, always in class, like don't have summers. And it really felt like, my early 20s were in a sense robbed. But that's not, like, now I think about it differently. Back then it was definitely hard because I wanted to go out, I wanted to party, I wanted to do all those things, but I was like, I can't. I got a test to study for. I got 8 tests to study for this week. And so that carried on. But what that does, it creates a lifestyle, and we realized that, you treat your body like, with respect, or you don't. And if you don't, then that becomes a liability in the future. And so getting that education and getting that foundation from an early age, I'm able to translate it now. So like, even though I do have to sacrifice, on the other side of things, it's like, well, what's worse? Having that 9 to 5 job, it was more like a 7 to 7 job, or, being your own boss. So yeah, there's definitely nights where I have to put in a lot of work on Saturday, but at the same time, like, today I saw patients in the morning. I was able to go by the pool for 30 minutes, and I was able to do a workout. Like, wouldn't have been able to do that before.
Exactly, man. I hit the gym this morning before 8, and
there you go.
Then I came back. Me and my son went to the park, and he just missed out on going to the beach with his sister and my granddaughter earlier because I missed her. But again, if I had to do some kind of 9 to 5 slog, I would have done it. And I made this jump like 10 years ago. We moved from Kernersville, which is about 3.5 hours west, to here. And I knew I could make the money, but it was all this running around. But I didn't understand at that point that I was going to have to be working like somewhere in between 12 to 16-hour days is what my normal thing was. And they weren't all 16, but they were definitely all 12, because I was up at 5:30 and I wasn't getting back home until after 8:30. And that was most nights. I taught in the evenings of Monday through Friday. And then I taught a class on Saturday morning too. So I didn't have any, I think I did that for 5 years, and I just had no weekends. Now, granted, that was fine because that was my lifestyle. I was like, I didn't care about going about drinking or partying or anything like that. I mean, I was a bit too old for it anyway, and it wasn't my scene. Plus, my son was younger. I needed to be home to be able to be there for him and his mother as much as I possibly could. But, I didn't do that in my 20s. Yeah. I did go out and party because I didn't go to college. I didn't do that. But it's you sacrifice the one decade for the decades after, because now, you carry the honor and the title of doctor, and how many people don't. So you do make that sacrifice, and now your ceiling is kind of only limited by scalability. You can only see so many patients a day, but that's not how you're getting paid. We talked earlier, you're kind of getting paid up by building relationships. It's kind of why we joined the network group in the first place, is to build those relationships. It was both important to us. And that's the one thing that draws people to those kind of network groups, is they understand that. And in Wilmington, brother, dude, if you get in tight with a good group of people down here, that they can save your livelihood, because that's what happened to me with COVID. Like, I don't know if I told you, my gym got shut down.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, and then I went to that meeting the next day because they shut down on a Wednesday. We had our meeting on Thursday, and I walked out of there with 3 job offers, and I had work. You know, I was working 5 days a week before, 6 days a week before, and then working 7 days a week ever since then.
Yeah.
But again, I can pick and choose my times. You know, like I can just take off and go. The other day, a couple of days ago, me and my son went to the beach just for an hour, just to search for sea glass. You know, have you done that yet?
I have not.
Sea glass?
No.
Do you know what it is? A sea glass it's just a piece of glass, a broken piece of glass, but it gets washed over by the waves.
Okay, yeah.
So it's got to be smooth on all sides. You can pick up a piece of glass. If it's got a sharp edge, you got to throw it back.
Yeah.
Right? And so we found this one that was like a Coke bottle from the 70s or something. It was just like a huge chunk, which is that's a rare find. But it was so weird because I told my son, I was like, I want to find a green piece and I want a big chunky piece of glass. And I found him. You know, it was like, this is fantastic. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. We had to go looking for some sand dollars. We found some.
Did you really?
Yes.
I've never found a sand dollar.
We found 2 in one day, in one morning.
Really?
And then we haven't found any since.
And a lot of people will get the shark teeth, and I can't. I've only found 3 shark teeth. 2 of them were small, and then I found one that was like the size of my palm. It was crazy, and it was just like laying out in the middle of just nothing else around it. It's like, here I am. It's like, oh, that's nuts. Yeah. But a sand dollar I've never been able to find. Since you've been open, what are some of your success stories? Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean,
I would say give us the juice, man.
I would say just the personal stories of people getting better. Not many doctors get the opportunity to actually see their patients progress. You know, a lot of times it's, you provide someone a treatment and then they come back in 3 months and 6 months. Other times it's more so like a prescription basis where you check in with people, a couple times a year and, you don't really know how they're doing. My favorite thing about chiropractic is that I see a difference in the person's expression and the person's mental state, how they're feeling, how happy they are when they get off the table. And that's such a rewarding thing, right? So outside of, helping someone that's got 5 years of sciatica, does taekwondo, is not able to go and do what he loves. He's a black belt, but he can't do it.
Right.
That's unfortunate. So like helping someone like that. Right. Or someone that, has had migraines since they were in elementary school, was put on medication, 5-6 migraines a week. Yeah. And now they're gone through chiropractic care. Right. So it's these stories that keep us going because, seeing that transformation in people, we get used to it because it happens so often. Right. But it's something that, we can't take for granted. Because how many other professions are able to say that with certainty?
Exactly, man. I mean, it's similar in when I teach self-defense, especially to somebody that is either doesn't have confidence or they are like actively getting bullied, right? Mm-hmm. And then I show them how to handle themselves, and then they go and either deal with the bullies or they don't. They just gain enough self-confidence that they don't, that people just leave them alone because they can see it. Something changes in them, and you're right. But being able to do that with like one visit on a table, is just incredible. It's like, and so that's the thing that keeps you like I'm making a positive change in people's lives. This is working. What I'm doing is impactful. I'm improving people's lives. So that positive feedback loop,
it's very rewarding.
And so many people don't have that, you're not going to get the same kind of enjoyment, I think, from just like, when I worked at McDonald's as a younger man, like just slinging fries and burgers. It's like, yeah, I was happy because I get some free food at the end of the shift or anything. But it's like, as far as fulfilling your heart and soul, that's not going to do it. You got to do. It's nice if you can have something that you feel like you're doing and it is improving people's lives, And not only that, like you can see it. People tell me, I can see it in them now, but like people have told me, So it's like I'll say that I'm good at something, but it's not because I think I'm good. It's because that's what people told me, So, but you can like right off the table, they're like, oh, you know.
100%. And I mean, everybody's stuck in patterns. Everybody lives their own lives and has their own way of doing things. And so one chiropractic adjustment, although I've seen amazing things happen from just one adjustment, a lot of times people will go back into those patterns, right? So if you have a pattern of sitting for 8 hours a day, and then you get an adjustment and you feel so much freedom within. You feel like you can move. You feel like you can, like you're not having all this compression in your spine. The thing is, it tends to come back. It tends to come back. So that's why chiropractic is never really recommended as like a temporary relief. It's never really recommended as like a one-stop shop. The same way that, when you go to the gym, you're not just going to work out one time per year. You're not going to just eat one healthy meal. You're not just going to go to one yoga class if you want to see that result.
Right.
So this applies to everything, including chiropractic. And so I feel like I've always heard people say, once you go see a chiro, they're going to tell you that they need to come back. It's like, well, yeah, of course. You don't have to come back, but, that's what's probably going to be recommended.
One of my buddies that owns he owns a gym in Greensboro. He goes like all the time. And I forget who he goes to up there. He's got somebody that he's been going to for years. But again, him and me, he does, like, he beats himself up way more than I do. Because he'll hold pads for people. And they also have, I don't train fighters. He trains fighters. So he's working with guys who are like wanting to do competitions and stuff. And that's just not what I do. And I'm like, oh man, I was like, dude, I am not doing that. Plus, I'm a little bit older than him too. So it's like, yeah, I was like, yeah, just wait till you get past the 50. He's not 50 yet. It's like, wait till you get past the 50 bar. Like holding pads for like monster, man. When they hit you, your hand goes numb. It's like that stuff. I'll get somebody else to hold pads for that guy. I'm not getting kicked and beat on.
Yeah, you really gotta love that stuff in order to do that, to make those sacrifices.
Exactly. So here's a good one. What's behind the scenes story about the business most people wouldn't know but would find fascinating? Is there one? There might not be one. But if there is, we want to know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, well, it all starts from my family and how I was raised. It was always service-oriented. I was raised in Lithuania, and everyone there was always, how can we help our neighbor? How can we help the people around us? And that's where my passion started for wanting to help people. So I almost became a PT. I almost went to medical school. And so, but I think what I found that in chiropractic, I didn't see anywhere else. I volunteered at a hospital when I was a senior in high school, and it was such a terrible experience. Everyone hated to be there, even the doctors, even the nurses, of course, every patient. Like, no one wanted to be there. Everyone knew they're going to get overcharged. Like, stress levels were so high, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to be in this environment.
What year was, or what was the years, the time frame?
I was a senior in high school, and that's when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Right.
And at that time, I was playing a lot of basketball, and so I found chiropractic through basketball.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was just kind of going in between. Like, I knew I wanted to be of service. I knew I wanted to go into some form of medical, some sort of a medical field. But, when I started exploring everything, I was like, this is what resonates. And there's also a philosophical aspect of it, too, which I really loved, I really enjoyed, and that's like what's really interesting to me. So although a lot of times when we speak to people, when we market ourselves on social media or, person to person, like things like BNI groups, I'm talking about symptoms. I'm talking about neck pain, headaches, low back pain, because that's what people resonate, that's what people understand.
Right.
But, what's deeper behind this business is the philosophy of chiropractic. It's the philosophy of what it is to be a doctor, what it is to be a patient, what it is to heal yourself. And I think that's what I'm really passionate about. That's what I want to share with every single person that comes through our doors, whether or not they choose to receive chiropractic with us. It's my goal to at least plant a seed in their mind about what it is to have a philosophy of health and why is it so important to have one.
We talked earlier, and you gave me your philosophy of the spine, and I found it just so interesting and fascinating because I was like, I remember telling you, like, dude, I've never heard anybody present it quite like that before. And that's how I knew you had, I was like, this dude is not joking around. He's got the passion. Of course, if you're going to go all the way through the medical school and do all that, like you're not farting around with it. You're not just doing it for fun. Otherwise you wouldn't have made the sacrifice. But can you touch on that, man, and give us that same, do you remember what you said?
Yeah, sort of. I think I stated something along the lines of the spine being the lifeline, being the core of the body. A lot of people think that the core of your body is your abs, which isn't wrong, but it's just a part of the answer. In my eyes, the core is the spine. That's where the extremities attach. That's where the skull sits. That's where every nerve comes out of. Every time you move your arm, it comes through the spine. So I think it's important to look at the spine as that. But more important than anything, even taking a step back, having a philosophy of health and understanding that the body is an intelligent thing, that the body is always doing the right thing. So there's this term, it's called autopoiesis, that refers to the fact that every living cell is self-developing, self-maintaining, and self-healing. Right? Now, that doesn't just apply to cells, that applies to organisms. Every single human here on this planet, every single animal, every single form of life has this quality of being able to develop, maintain, and heal itself. Right. And I think that's where the philosophy stems from, is that understanding that life is always trying to heal. Say, for example, I drink some alcohol. What is my body doing in response to that? It's healing itself. And that's why we're getting those symptoms of detoxification and a hangover. What happens when we get a fever? The body is healing itself. What happens when there's inflammation? Well, the body is trying to get nutrients to the area that was injured and then trying to get the waste out, so the body is healing. But a lot of times we demonize the symptoms. A lot of times we think of symptoms as something that we need to get rid of because they're causing pain, they're causing discomfort,
telling
they're
us
causing
something.
disease. Exactly. So instead of treating the symptom, it's important to explore, like, what is causing that symptom? What is the root cause of it?
Yeah.
And that's where chiropractic philosophy stems from, is that understanding that the body is trying to heal itself. How can we help it in healing rather than trying to just treat a symptom that's causing discomfort?
That's fantastic, dude. And I think that's the kind of language that I like to hear my doctors using.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the doctor, from Latin translated, it comes from the word docere, which means teacher.
Ah, well, there you go.
Right. So I think that's important because a lot of times doctors will take on the responsibility of trying to heal the person for them.
Right.
Versus essentially giving the person their responsibility back for having to heal themselves and giving people tools to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then, kind of that's what I do with self-defense. I'm like, I don't try to teach people to be me or this or that. I'm like, you're you, I'm me. We have different strengths and weaknesses. We need to employ the necessary tools in order to accomplish the thing that we want to get done, right? So if that's, a fist or a knee or whatever it is, like you need enough tools in the toolbox to take care. Well, you want to have the smallest amount of tools in the toolbox to take care of the largest amount of problems. And that's like the philosophy of Krav Maga. But so I don't overload people with stuff. I'm just like, this is kind of all you need. Sure. If you feel like you need more, then you can go down other rabbit holes. But I'm going to give you just this stripped down framework that will solve, a large portion of the stuff you may run across.
Yes.
And I think that's, by and large, there aren't a lot of doctors out there who feel that same way. They are out there. You're one of them. And I know some of them personally. I know a handful of guys that kind of feel the same way. And then one of my friends out in California, she's a therapist, and she kind of has that same philosophy too. So it's like teaching people how to overcome their whatever they're going through, whether it be a spiritual or behavioral issue, a physical issue, like what you deal with. But like, again, they're and my friend in California, she said that she's like, she goes, everything's interrelated. Yes. They all affect each other, and it's so true. It is. So if you just look at symptoms, you'll miss the bigger picture.
Yes.
You'll miss how these things interconnect. And I just told somebody the other day, I said, look, if you have a spiritual wound, you can't attack it with psychological tools or psychological techniques. You have to use spiritual tools for that. If you have a physical wound, you have to use, physical techniques for this. So you have to address the wound or the issue where it is with the proper toolkit.
Yes.
Otherwise, it'll just be, like putting peanut butter on a cut, or like something ridiculous like that. You're just missing the point,
Yes.
Have you,
Yeah, I mean, that's it brings a story to mind. I was back in high school. My buddy was having a sleepover. And so in my parents' basement, there is like terrible connection, right? So he wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi. He didn't have connection. And we're playing NBA, 3 hours go by and we're having a great time. We go upstairs and he looks at his phone, finally gets connected to the network, and he has like 15 missed calls from his mom. Oh. So it was snowing. There was a storm going on. It was an hour drive to get to my house. His mom thought that he got into an accident or something, not picking up his phone. My parents were out of town. She couldn't contact them. My phone was also not connecting. So what had happened is those 3 hours, she thought that something seriously happened. And as a result of that, her whole body went into a state of contraction. Her whole body went into a sympathetic state, an overly sympathetic state, where all the cortisol, adrenaline was released into her blood. What does that do? All the muscles tensed up, like enormous amount of anxiety, depression, all that. But not only that, that stayed for months. Right, she had pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, trouble moving, uncomfortable sleeping, like couldn't even fall asleep sometimes, all because for 3 hours her body was overly stressed. And so when you say everything is interrelated, of course it is. Of course it is, because that's how the body works. You can't just change one thing and not expect that to affect the whole. The body is not a bag of interchangeable parts where something is broken, just put another part. It's like, no, you change one thing, it's going to affect everything.
Absolutely, man. So far, since you've been in business, what is the most important lesson that you've learned?
Setting deadlines that are not 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month ahead. Setting deadlines for today and tomorrow.
Okay, why is that?
So I think if you can't achieve something within, 24 to 48 hours, that means you need to break that task down so that you have achievable things.
Yeah.
The problem that I ran into was, okay, I have this big task to do. I'm giving myself until next Friday to do it. And so I have, say, 9 days to do it. And so what tends to happen is I procrastinate for the next 7 days, and then I try to squeeze it in, and then the quality of the work is greatly diminished.
Yeah.
It's like studying for a test. So in real life business, you can't do that, because then, obviously you're going to suffer the consequences. So that was like the biggest lesson. When we moved here, we set deadlines that are a month out, 2 weeks out. And it's like, no, if I can't set a deadline for, today or tomorrow, that means that I'm not setting clear goals.
Right. There was I forget, because I wrote the freaking book and I forget, because one of them was, that's like one of these eponymous laws, right?
Yes.
And I forget which one it is, but it's like, it's the law that deals with like whatever timeline you set,
yes,
like the work expands or shrinks to fit that timeline, right?
100%.
And so, and somebody was like, I've noticed this thing, and so they just call it that. I forget what it was, but then what you're talking about, breaking it up into chunks, is one of my mentors, is Dr. Johnny Parker. Mm-hmm. He said that he goes, you need to make winning winnable, right? And so that means that, if you have a large task, mm-hmm. right, to break it up into chunks. One of my best friends is writing a book right now. It's been, I've been on him for years to write this book. He's got like 2 or 3 books in him, mm-hmm. and I've known him for 10 years. And the first day I met him, I was like, brother, you've got at least 1 book in you, probably 2, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. Like this is within the first hour of meeting him. I'm like, this dude's got a book or 2 in him. He's finally getting down to it. And what he did is, he kind of does it backwards from the way I do it. Like I have mm-hmm. just so many ideas. I just start writing. I'm like Jack Kerouac. I just write. And I'm just getting it all out, right? Yeah. And then I'll go back and organize it later.
I'm the same way.
But he's absolutely backwards. He like he's got the title and all the chapters and all the subtitles. It's like the whole table of contents is written already, right? Now he's going to go back and hit each individual one. You know, I don't know how long it's going to take him. If he keeps the pace that he started with, he'll be done in 2 weeks. But this thing is going to be like huge. It's probably going to be 300 pages plus or something.
Wow.
But he's got 10 years of this work that he's been doing. It's he does like trauma healing and meditation and executive business coaching and I, all of these things that he's touched on. Excuse me. All these things that he's touched on for the past 10 years since I've known him. And he's just putting it all into this one encyclopedic type of book. And I was like, dude, it's like my book's like the one I just wrote was like 20 pages because I just had an idea. I just wanted to get it out. Right.
Yeah.
Now the first one I wrote, it's like 100 and depending on the format, it's somewhere between like 150 to 180 because I had a lot to say and I was getting it all off my chest.
Yes.
The second one that I'm writing, that was that part of my life. And then the second one is kind of like, I wrote that first one right as my son was being born or right when he was young. And then the second was like afterwards. So that was back when I was like just a hooligan. And then like this one now, I'm a little bit older. You know, I've got some
more perspective.
Some perspective. You know, I'm like, and I'm looking back, going, "Whoa, dude, the stuff that I did. Like, how did I not die?
Yeah.
Like at least twice. I'm like, I cheated death at least twice, and I was like,
did I have a near-death experience?
No, but I did stupid things where I could have been killed, and I just wasn't. You know, I mean, I got in a car crash one time where I was like. Everything's in slow motion, and I was sliding on some ice, and I was like, I'm about to die. But my car just it just swerved out of the way as this other one just ran right past me, and we were looking at each other like, because I'm like, I can't believe you missed me, and the person's like, I can't believe I missed you. It's just like I thought I was gonna hit you, and I was like, me too. But and then there was some other stuff that I was like. I look back on it, I was like, oh my gosh, that was extraordinarily dangerous and stupid. I should not have done that. But you know, you live and learn, I guess. I'm alive, so here I am. I know since you are you're just getting started in this, right? And so it's like, you got so much stuff. What's your vision for the future look like?
Yeah, great question. I think what I've always been drawn to is to eventually have like a healing center, like a holistic wellness center where
you got to meet my friend.
Yeah, I do. You know, where I do the chiropractic.
Yeah.
And so, but there's a team of people. We all work together.
I have to introduce you to my friend. He says the same thing. He's been saying the same thing for like, I don't know, ever since I've met him. He's wanted to have this kind of healing center since he got in it.
Millions of people are looking for it. A lot of people don't know that that's what they're looking for. But, you know, I think that would solve so many issues. I think so many people would find benefit and healing from that. And that also provides a sense of community that, you know, is hard to find these days. If you're not in school, you're not in college, you know, if you work from home especially, it's difficult to find people to, you know, open up to and be vulnerable with. And so having a facility like that, it's not just, you know, about treating symptoms. It's about, you know, how can we heal together? Because most of the time, healing happens with other people.
Exactly.
Right? Especially emotional, spiritual healing. It's like, you know, you got to heal those wounds with others because we all share them.
I forget which tribe it was, but it was a Native American tribe, and they said that, like, if one of us is sick, we're all sick. You know, I don't know if it was Cherokee or Sioux or whoever, and that's how they felt. They were like, if one of us is sick, it means like we're all sick. So we have to all be involved in what this person is doing to help heal them, because this one person being sick is a symptom for us all. Yes. You know, and I'm like,
that's powerful.
And it was because I'd never ever thought of it that way, you know, like, because again, you know, this is the West, you know, and I like the turn of the century American entrepreneurial spirit was one thing, right? But then hearing you talk about your younger years in Lithuania, where you came up, so you were like, I knew I was going to be of service. Everybody was doing it, you know. It's like, I don't know how many American, like traditional American families that you would hear that same kind of story come out of.
Yeah, it's
Now,
rare.
I worked, like my family were all working. We worked, right? And they, you know, there were plenty of people that I had examples of that were that, but it wasn't that per se. It was like, we work, we do this, we get up, we just do the thing that needs to get done. You know, we do it together. If we can't do it together, so one of us will do it alone, you know. But it's like, but we do this. But that shared philosophy, that shared integration of we are all doing this together because that's the culture. It's fantastic, man. You know, and it's I want to promote that. You know, I want to celebrate that. I want to promote that. So it's one of those things that it needs to take root. It needs to grow. You know, and that's why there are when you come across these types of situations that you're talking about where there is a healing center, right? Because I knew some people in the other group that wanted to do that, and they were, you know, it's the need for it is there. The people are there. The thing is, you need a facility, and you have to have some way to manage the thing. Yeah. You know, so you need some kind of crazy capitalist to come in there and be like, all right, here's how we're going to make money off this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the hard part, you know, because the way I learned that is like not only chiropractic, but everything in medicine. There's a philosophy, there's a science, there's an art, but then there's also the fourth step, which is the business. And we can't not talk about it. You know, everything is a business. And so having to run a business where, you know, I'm trying to make money, but I'm also helping people, it's difficult because there is this barrier, especially for a lot of people that just graduate, whether, you know, they're dentists, whether they're chiropractors, and you know, someone comes in and you have to present them with, say, a $3,000 care plan that spans over, you know, 4 months. And, you know, at the beginning, when you first graduate, a lot of people don't have confidence to communicate that because you are selling something. And so that's you know, with the healing center, it's the same thing. You would be selling a service. But my favorite thing that I've heard in regards to selling was actually from Mark Cuban. He said that selling is helping.
It is. That's true. Although, and you know, I like a lot of what Mark Cuban's got to say, and certainly he knows, right? But I like the Zig Ziglar version, right? The more I help people get what they want, the more I get what I want.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. And so, but again, that still tracks back to service, right? And sales is still a skill, right? And not everybody is blessed with the ability to just do it smoothly. Somebody, I can't remember who it was. It's one of these dudes on Instagram or TikTok right now, one of these famous influencers. But they said, it's I forget who it was. It's he goes, you don't have to sell. What you have to do is you need proper messaging and a proper offer. He's if you have your messaging correct and you have your offer correct, you don't have to try to sell. What you have done is created the framework so you can verbally articulate to a person, here's the thing that I'm solving for you, or here's the thing that you're going to get from this much money, right? And if it aligns with them, then you don't have to sell, they'll just buy it.
Yes.
Right? So I think that needs to be taught at an entrepreneurial school, or anybody that's in the getting ready to go and jump through this. It needs to be some kind of course or something that you can find online or at small, you know, college campuses or something where you could just go and do it. And then you have to now granted, you know, the group we're in, we reinforce that, right? But it's different if you have a mentor or somebody who that's what they specialize in, you know? Now granted, some of these people can do it, but it's then they want to charge you $3,000 just for you know, 20 minutes of time, and it's well, yeah, but I probably could have watched 4 hours of YouTube and found that out. You know? Exactly. But it takes a while, man. And it's still, you know, you have to, once you get it down and you can understand the process, well, then it's easy, right? But until that point, it's not. You know, I have some people in my last group that I mean, they have this. Some people have a real hang up about asking for money, you know, and I did too for a while because I was like, oh, ask for money. I'm trying to help people. It's like, yeah, but like, here's the thing, they don't mind paying you if you really help them, especially if the value that you deliver to them is more than what you're charging or what they perceive it is. Then they're going to be like, dude, like, yeah, you got to go see Dr. Martynas, man. Like, he's like, you know, he's like coming in under the radar, but like what he gives is so, you know, so it's kind of like the Gary Vee thing, right? Yeah. Left, jab, right hook, you know? So, if you can bring the value proposition and make it such that it's just it would be stupid not to buy it at that price, you know? But there again, how do you figure that out? That's trial and error.
Yeah,
you know,
well, you got to be willing to give and you got to be willing to receive, and having a balance of that. You know, that's what balance in life is all about. If you can't receive, if you don't let yourself, then you know eventually you're going to run out of resources. You're gonna, you know, you're gonna burn out, and you got to take care of yourself. And I feel like the better care that I take of myself, the better quality service I can provide. That's
one of the things, like that situation we were talking about before. That's something that came to my mind too. I was like, oh man, because I was holding on to this negative thing, right? And it was infecting everything about life. And I'm like, dude, if I hold on to this, I'll poison everybody around me, including myself. Nobody benefits from me doing this. And so I had to like let go of that and then bring in, you know, something that had its basis in love and growth and compassion and whatnot, you know. Because otherwise, I was like, this is not gonna bode well for me in the long term, or anybody else. You know, the long term health and wellness of everybody that's close to me is going to suffer if I keep doing this thing. And you know, but like I believe that you can do the thing you love and get paid handsomely for it.
Yes, me too.
You know? So it's like, especially if what you're doing is you're putting so much value out there to the world, you know, that the value's got to come back, you know. I just believe that. I think it's one of those things that is a thing that exists. Moving on. All right, man. So you're still so new to this. It's like, it's great talking to somebody who's still at the beginning of the journey, man, because all of this stuff is fresh for you. And so like every day is a new day, you know. It's like every day. I'm sure you've had those days where you're like, what is it today?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that's always how it is. You open up your email and you're like, oh, great, now I got to deal with this.
Fantastic. Now it's like, I didn't see that coming. No, I got to pay this thing. Great.
Yeah.
What would you give, the advice you would give to like beginning entrepreneurs? Just the one thing, and like the one lesson's one thing, but like, because you said it was make deadlines. Outside of that, what would you tell people who are just starting?
I would say you have to first understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing. Outside of money.
Excellent point.
Outside of money. Because, if you're money motivated, if you do make, some money in return, what happens next? And so having that deeper sense of purpose behind, whether you're selling something on Amazon, it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do with that money? And so I think that's the most important thing. And once you figure that out and once you become passionate about it, and then the other thing is just like you have to pursue something that you're curious in. Because if you're not curious in something and you're forcing yourself to start a business, to do all these tasks, but you're not even interested in it, it becomes a really difficult task.
It's forget what book I read. I've read so many books on this stuff, but like there's a difference between being busy and productive, right? And just like you said, like the setting the deadlines, right? So it's like you can spin all these plates, and you're like, "What are you doing?" I'm busy.
Yes.
And then at the end of the day, you're like, "I've got nothing done."
Yeah, right? I definitely have felt like that.
Like I ran on the hamster wheel all day long, and I'm sweating. I got to change clothes, and what'd you get done? I didn't get anything done. I answered these emails. Like, there's I forget who it was, but there was a grid. It's like a square, right? Mm-hmm. And on one side it's important, and on the other side it's urgent.
Yes, I think you're talking about the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Urgent and important is something you got to do. Like, important but not urgent, right? It's important but not urgent for my friend to collect all of his thoughts, right?
Yes.
You know, he's going to need them to write the book, but it's imperative that he make money today.
Yeah.
You know, to pay his bills, right? So it's like you have to weigh those things. But some of those important but not urgent things, they build the back end so you have it's like infrastructure, for example, because he's got. Oh man, I wish he hadn't have done this, but he's this way. Because I just started this channel is new, right? And then I have the other one that I'm talking about, the other stuff. And so I have 2 podcast type YouTube channels. He's going to start one too, and he goes, "Let's race to the end of the year and see who has more subscribers." And I was like, okay,
that's exciting.
Well, now I have the infrastructure, and I've done this, right? So you're like my 7th person that I've talked to. So this is not new to me. It's not new to him either, but he doesn't have the infrastructure built. The thing that he does that he has that I don't have is he's already got an audience built in, right? Because he's been a coach for so long, his email list is like, he's got a large email list that he can hit people with like that. I don't have that. So he could probably get, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 subscribers. I don't know how quick he can do it, right? But I know for me, it's nobody knows who I am, so it's really slow, right? Unless I cheat and like pay for him or something like that, which I ain't gonna do, right? Because one, I don't want to pay the money. It's better stuff I would spend my money on. But yeah, that's that. When you have to, like, I like what you said, the why. One time I was lost with my my own journey there, and I was like, that guy lost clients on one side because, again, the 16-hour days, I was burning the candle at both ends. And I started to sleep over past 5:30, and I had a 6 o'clock fitness class that I was trying to teach. I had to be there at 6 o'clock for a class. And I started oversleeping occasionally because I just couldn't keep the pace up, right? And so then that eventually went away, and then other clients went away, and then this one. So I started losing like these were income sources. So I started losing all that stuff, and then something went down at it was hard for me to also generate or get members to show up for the self-defense classes because I was spinning all these plates all at the same time, and you can't. What I learned is you can't do it, or I can't do it. Maybe somebody else can, but I can't.
Maybe Elon Musk.
Yeah, right. Well, he could outsource a lot of stuff, right? It was all me. And I remember this book. What was it? The book was The One Thing, right? Great book for me at that time because it says, ask the focusing question. And the focusing question is, what's the one thing I can do today that if I do it, it will make almost everything else on my to-do list go away, right? And I was like, that's a very good way to think about that. But it did talk about get down to your why. Like, why are you doing this? And for a while there, I was just in a daze. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I was coming or going. And I'm like, why am I even here? What am I even doing? Like, everything's falling apart. Like, what am I even doing here? What do I do?
Yeah, I felt that when I moved here, because it's that why is an extension of your commitment, and the emotions, they always change day to day. Like something good happens, something bad happens, you feel good, you don't feel good, and all that changes so quickly. But as long as you are committed to a purpose, to a goal, and you know why you're doing it, even in those bad days or bad weeks, you're able to reflect back on your why and keep that motivation and keep that spirit to keep on going.
Yeah. And my why was, first and foremost, I'm a teacher. Like, I'm here to teach people. And so then I took a blank piece of paper and was like, here's my philosophy. Here's what I do. Here's why I do it. And I'm already doing it. So I wasn't having success that way. Fine, whatever. But I'm still going to do this. So I narrowed my focus. And I just kind of zeroed in on the one thing. Instead of doing all these other things, I was just like, what I really want to do is teach this. This is what I want to do. So I just did that. And then from there, I was able to build and build and build. And I had a lot of momentum going into 2020. And then COVID happened. And I was like, oh. So now it's like, okay, now I have to pivot and do something else. So, but it forces you to be resilient. It forces you to kind of grow in a different direction, right? And it forces you to kind of look at, all right, the long road, right? I mean, I'm 52. Do I really want to keep getting beat up until I'm 62? You know,
Probably
it's like
not.
I at some point I'm going to pivot, and I'm not going to be the person on the mats anymore, getting beat up all the time. Now, granted, I love what I do, I enjoy it, but I don't like it. Is punishing to the body, right? I get hit all the time. I caught one in the face just the other day. So, you know, I get stray shots to the groin like 2-3 times a month. You know, I mean, broken toes, broken fingers, bruised, you know, it's, but anybody in the industry has suffered that. I mean, my friend tore his bicep tendon, you know, just, he tore it like doing deadlifts, but he couldn't train, and he couldn't train with his clients for like, you know, weeks after that, you know, so it's like we put our bodies on the line. And then if we don't, because again, it's like if I don't show up to do that, then I don't get paid. Because I don't have a staff. Now, he has a staff. He's got somebody who can do it, but I don't have that. So I've always been like a one-man show down here. Yeah. And every time I've tried to bring people in, and as soon as I've had somebody that's ready to roll, something happens on their end. Like something happens with the family, or the job changes, or like I had 3 guys ready to roll right before COVID happened, and then their whole lives changed. So they didn't come back, and I was like, oh man, you know, so I'm like, okay, I have to figure something else out. But I didn't like it, but I liked that it made me more resilient on the backside, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Let's do this one first, the impact of failure. Are there any that have been a blessing in disguise, and how did it contribute to your success, or if it did at all?
Yeah, totally. So we failed a lot, especially at the beginning, because we moved here. We did not have a space. We did not have our chiropractic licenses in the state. We have not formed the business entity or opened the business bank.
You guys are all on faith, man.
Yes, exactly. And so our goal, we got approved for an SBA loan. And so we started looking for these big facilities, almost skipping that first step, and not quite, you know, like a wellness center, but a 2,000 square foot facility.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Pretty big, right? An overhead for a chiropractic office that big would be upwards of $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right? So that's something that we avoided and it wasn't out of like we wanted to do it. We would have signed the contracts, but the landlords backed out. They weren't responsive. They were not able to get back to us in time for the SBA loans to come through and everything. So that fell through. And so at that time, we were devastated. We're like, we've been here for 2.5 months. We just found our dream spot. That fell through. We have the business bank account, but we have no space to see people from. And you just feel like such a failure because you're like, I moved here, I burned up all my financial resources. You know, I'm out here only going to Costco to buy my groceries. That's it. Not going out to eat, not doing anything fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, we still didn't have anything. And so that feeling of failure was such a motivator to get out and just get started. And we just did what we should have done day one, just found a single room and started.
Yeah.
And just started doing the small things, started going to network to the community, set up screenings. And it was, it led to our current success.
That's great. Well, and so failure teaches you, right?
Yes.
To what's really important. It's like, you don't have all these things yet.
Yes.
And you need, before you can get the big facility, you need one client.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like that. It was like this higher power coming in. Like you're not ready for that. Yeah. Like slow down.
Baby steps.
Exactly. Just trying to, you know. And I think it would have been possible, but I don't think I would be mentally where I am right now. I think I would be much more stressed. I think I would be in significantly more debt. And
absolutely.
Potentially just have resentment towards this whole process. And, you know, who knows what that would have done to our relationship.
Man.
Between me and my partner, too. So
it would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Somebody, I forget I don't know, again, one of these things that I read, but it's like a slow, steady increase in success is probably better for you than like when you're first starting out, right? Now, if you've done it before, it's different, right? Because you know where you're going and you know all these other hurdles. But if you don't know all the stuff in front of you and you try to just zoom all the way past that to the end, like you're not ready for. It's like the overnight rock star who's like, play coffee shops, and doing open mic nights one night, and then next thing you know, they're on tour, opening it up for somebody. It's like they're not ready for that jump. Now they're playing like stadiums and whatnot. They're like, dude, I guess we made it, but like you watch them all disintegrate, right? I mean, they all end up ODing or something like that, or end up in jail because they weren't ready for all the stuff that came with it, Yes. So I think that a slower ride, or taking the baby step, walking before you run, is probably a better option. When you're just starting out. Like now, I could be like, you know what? If I had X, Y, and Z tomorrow, I'd be fine, right? Because especially with if X, Y, and Z money was attached to it, because I'd take that money and go, okay, I'm hiring this person and this person and this person. It's like, because you guys are going to save me all kinds of headaches and all kinds of stress that I don't want to have to deal with. That's what the money's for. Yeah. So when you learn what you should delegate, I think is another big stepping stone to your entrepreneurial journey. But when you're just first getting started, you got to wear all the hats, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
And I don't like wearing all the hats. I'm only good at 3 things.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there. I like taking care of patients. I like connecting with people. I like adjusting. I wouldn't say I like marketing. I definitely don't like posting on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook. That's just not me. And so, but you learn how to do it and you create enjoyment, and then you as you get better at things, it becomes more enjoyable.
And it has, you either outsource it if you can, or you find some way to make it part of your routine. And it's not my favorite thing either, especially when I'm doing the self-defense thing, because I'm teaching. There's no way I can do I can take a little snap or whatever, but like I've had people say, you need to be in more videos. And I'm like, well, who's going to shoot it?
Yeah.
It's like, I've got class to run, and then I've got other stuff to do on the backside of that. So I took months off from posting there because I'm just tired of it, Now, granted, it probably hurt me for the short term, but I'm like, it won't matter. I'll post again. But I just was like, man, I've got other stuff I have to do and think about and deal with. It's like, I don't want to do this every single day, all the time. And then if I don't post, it's like nobody's hitting me up on Instagram and the DMs going, hey man, you didn't post today. Yeah. It's like nobody's telling me that. Like if I had that, if people were like, "Oh man, I want to see you post every day," I'm like, "Okay, then I'll do it," right? Because then I'm like, somebody's out there, right? Yes. It's like there's an audience for it. It's like, and people I'll see it and they'll respond to everything, but it's like it's like nobody's clamoring for me to put out more of that stuff. I was like, okay, good. They won't miss me while I take a break from this.
Exactly.
Community and collaboration, because you talked about that earlier. Now, outside of your partner here, who has supported you the most on the journey, and how have they influenced your success?
There's a lot of people that play a role, from my chiropractic mentors to my parents to my family in Lithuania, even to my, even to Mira's family too. I would say if there's one person, it would be my mom. She is the one that moved to America. She's the one that took that step. She brought us with. She was a single mom when she did it.
Wow.
And it was me and my little brother. We're 10 years apart, So at that time, he wasn't even 1, and I was 11. And so moving to a new country, she had a good job lined up. That's why we moved here. So we had some sort of financial stability. But seeing her sacrifice everything for the betterment of our lives to give us an opportunity, and now that leading us here, it's been amazing to see that. And so I'm very grateful for her, everything that she's done. And it just shows the value of family bonds and family relationships. Like when I lived back in Lithuania, my aunt, my uncle, my family, and my grandma all lived on one street. So that
that's awesome.
sense of community, kind of like you were saying earlier, it's like so important. It teaches you how to help people around you. It teaches you how to live as a tribe. And it's it's missing here in the United States. It doesn't happen. No, neighbors don't know each other. And that just wasn't the case. That wasn't the case in Lithuania. So yeah, it's I would say I'm definitely very grateful for her. And then when it comes to our chiropractic mentors, like the Tony Robbins chiropractor, he was one of our teachers, not in school, but went to a lot of his seminars. Yeah, and it was very powerful because it was like this very like spiritual approach to healing, a spiritual approach to almost chiropractic. And so it was like I was like, wow, this is more than just like mechanistic, like physical stuff. This goes beyond that.
One of the owners was his Greek man, and so he knew all these Greek dudes with restaurants. And so what we would do is we ended up doing all their restaurants, and then their kids would come, and then we'd do their kids' house. So somebody would get married, we'd do their house. They'd bring somebody over from Greece, and then we would do that. And that kind of community, like familial community type thing, I always admired that. And you see it like in the Hispanic population too, right? But it's like, but you're right, man. The American thing is that, go to school, get a job, and then it's like you're on your own, And so, but that's not, nobody else does it that way.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that way in Europe. It's not that way in the Mediterranean. It's not that way in Hispanic. I mean, they still, the people live at home. They stay together. I mean, we knew guys that were 30-something years old before they left home. Not because they couldn't, but because they weren't married yet. And so why go out and spend the money and do all this and like have the lifestyle where you're just wasting money if you're not like keep that money until you get married and then build something with your wife, right? Yes. And so you're furthering the community. And I was like looking at them, I was like, man, they've got it figured out. Like nobody does that, or not. It's not an American thing. For Americans, like you have that camaraderie if you're on a sports team, right? If you go to college and you join a frat or sorority, you have that kind of camaraderie, right? But then you get out into the workforce and it's like, go work, be a wage slave, work 40, 60 hours a week. You don't have any friends. You don't have any of this. You don't have any, we need that kind of tribal support, as it were. We're designed that way. Humans are social creatures. We need to have it.
Yes.
And I think that alienation from the American perspective that has been, it's just been pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's like, I'm like, where's the, now to say that people haven't been talking about the importance of family, because they certainly have, but like the one narrative overtook the other one. And I don't know exactly when it happened, somewhere in between the 70s and 80s, because I was born in 72. And certainly the rise of the single parent family in America anyway was just, and you came here, right? Not in the 70s, but you came here as that.
Yes.
And so, but you have that perspective of knowing what it was like back in the old country, where like everybody was there. You could just go outside and be like, hey, what's up? Uncle this or aunt whoever, And I just thought, I was like, it'd be great. Because like if my whole family lived up and down the street, it'd be awesome.
It'd be a party.
Yeah. Well, because my son would have, he's just hanging out right now.
Yeah.
And if I had caught my daughter, he'd be at the beach right now. But, if she lived on the street, or if she lived here. So that's one of those things that I think is, it's kind of like chicken soup for the soul kind of thing, Because me, I'm here, my daughter's here, my son's here. Everybody else lives 3.5 hours away. There's like, my family is not, we're physically not close. Right? And I mean, we're close, familial, but like I'd have to go to drive to see them, but they'd have to go drive to see me. You know what I mean? And yours is across the, the oceans. I'm complaining about a 3.5 hour drive. You're just like, dude, that's a 9 hour flight or more, I mean, it's from Atlanta to Frankfurt. It's like 9-something hours. I don't know. Then from Germany to Lithuania, it's not that far.
Yeah, it's a couple more hours, but typically the layover can be quite long. So definitely, and then the time change too, man. That's always so hard. You get there.
That's right. Because where's Lithuania? It's right. It is.
If you know where the Baltic Sea is, it's so it's going to be east of the Baltic Sea, and
Yeah.
then it's like north of Poland, west of Russia.
Okay. So it's like right there in the.
Yeah.
Are they nervous right now with all that stuff going on?
Yeah, they are. They are very nervous. They are. It's difficult because, I think for people in America, when COVID happened, and obviously the whole country suffered in many ways, and then COVID was over. But COVID ended right when the war started, and so I think a lot of people in America, they forget, kind of how difficult it was. And for everyone in Europe, that difficulty continued, but it went from being a virus to war, which is honestly more scary. Because, with a virus, like I take care of my body, I'm healthy, I'm not scared of COVID, right? With a war, it doesn't matter if I'm scared.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're healthy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. It's like you get drafted, you get sent to war, and, that's it. And so... but at the same time, it's I do believe, and maybe they would disagree with me. I think there's a lot of propaganda out there.
Definitely.
I mean, it's hard to be involved in everything. Thousands of years ago, like you're not concerned with what happens even 100 miles away from you. You're not concerned what happens halfway across the world. But now anything bad happens in a different country, you know about it, you hear about it, you read it on Twitter, and. We're just not made to worry about all these things. Like, if instead of all the time that we spend, being concerned and being worried about things that we can't control, if we take 50% of that time and actually do something useful with it, like you're going to feel happier. But, it is a pattern. It's obviously, phones are an addiction. Social media is an addiction.
Absolutely.
Hard to break that.
Yeah. And I forget who said it, Seneca or Marcus Aurelius. One of them said that a man suffers more in imagination than he does in real life. Or he says, because if you're worrying about something that hasn't happened yet, you're worrying more than you need to.
Yeah, totally. It's like worrying is praying for something that you don't want.
Yeah, and that's why I like the Stoics, man, because they got those good one-liners.
Yeah, they have a lot of them. A lot of people don't know that chiropractic obviously was started by D.D. Palmer in the late 1800s, but the art of working with the spine is far older than that. Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, he actually wrote a whole book about the spine being a cause of disease, and he made an effort to examine people's spines. He actually did some form of spinal mobilization. So I don't know exactly what that was. I don't know if there's too much that says about what he was doing and how he was doing it, but that's what it was labeled as. So even like the art of working with the spine is not necessarily something that's new. It's been around for thousands of years.
I did not know that.
Chiropractic actually just kind of took it and created a whole philosophy behind it and a deeper understanding into what it is. But, it's been around for a very long time.
Dude, that's why I like doing what I do. Yeah. Well, I like to learn stuff like that, man. I had no idea that it had been around for that long.
Yeah, and it wasn't called chiropractic.
Right, it was just something that they did,
Exactly.
Has there been a moment of unexpected success or recognition that took you by surprise? What was that like?
Yeah, well, through business, it's at the beginning, it's very it's sort of unstable where, it ebbs and flows. A couple of weeks are very, very good. A couple of weeks are pretty slow. And so I think it was that first upbeat that we had where we went from, seeing just a couple of people a week. And then within 2 weeks, we had 6 new patients out of nowhere, which for us, that was a lot. And
that's fantastic.
All of them decided to commit to care. All of them decided to, commit to 90 days and actually commit to their health. And it was like that boost with just, within 2 weeks, it gave us all the confidence and everything that we needed to keep going.
Yeah.
And so it was unexpected. We didn't do any specific marketing campaign. It was just all word to mouth. It was all just it just all lined up. And so that was very sweet.
Yeah. That's the best kind of marketing too, is word of mouth stuff. You can't, because nothing else better. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it's the thing that you can't pay for. It's you can't force somebody to give you a good review, right? They have to have it and then go, oh yeah, you got to go check them out over here at GoodLife.
100%.
Where do you see your legacy when you're talked about years from now, right? What do you want people to say?
Well, I want to be someone that is joyful, someone that enjoys life, someone that leads people towards better health, someone that's a good father, a good son. Beyond being a chiropractor, it's about having healthy children. It's about enhancing the community that you're a part of, and that's what I want my legacy to be.
That's awesome, man. Because I never even thought about that. And it's a thing that you don't normally think about when you first get started, right? Because you got so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it might be one of the things you want to think about early on, because it'll be kind of that guiding principle, whenever times get hard, So I remember one time, he's an older fellow. He's 70 something when he came to see me, and he was coming in for self-defense, right? And I remember thinking, this guy, he's asking questions, like pointed, directed, like deep questions. He's trying to pull information, extract information out of me. And I had known guys that were military intelligence, and I known some children of guys that were FBI agents or like interrogators for I don't know if it was the CIA, but they were children of intelligence operatives, right? And I was like, the only people that do this are spies, because like I would answer the guy, I would answer him, and then I'd ask him a question back, and he just would never answer anything, and he would just come back around and ask me another question, and I'm like, I remember going, this guy's getting a lot of information out of me, and I don't even know his last name.
Yeah. That's very stoic.
I was like, this guy's he's either really good at this, he's a negotiator, or he's former intelligence some kind of way. And I was like, I don't know what it is. He's neither. But what he was, he asked me, he goes, what are you doing for this town? And I was like, that is a question I've never been asked. He goes, well, I'm asking it because I want to know how long you're going to stay here. He's like, I don't want to commit to you if you're just going to try to do X, Y, and Z, and you're going to be gone in a year. And I was like, oh, that's where you're going. I said, bro, this is home for me. I'm like, I'm here to do the best job I can do, either, one class at a time or one person at a time. But I'm here to change the lives of people in a sense that they come to me needing something or wanting something. They have a problem that I'm the solution for. I want them to leave me going out of my door going, I have the tools necessary to deal with this, and the confidence to employ them, right? So I was like, that's where I'm at. But that's where that question came from. It was like, I was like, nobody had ever, the dude grilled me for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a police interrogation. I was like, whoa. But he got what he wanted. And then he became, he became a regular. And I mean, that dude was 70 years old, 130 pounds, and he was hitting harder than guys your size.
Yeah.
So college age dudes would come in, and I would be like, all right, I'm going to put you with this dude here. And they'd be like, it's an old man. I was like, yeah.
Don't judge the book by its cover.
Tighten up, man. Tighten up. I think you're a little bit loose right there.
That's right.
But, and he was so vicious that I was like, oh man, I feel sorry for the person who thinks I'm going to go over here and mess with this little old man. He'll tear your face off, dude.
I bet.
But, and then, again, everything happened with COVID, and, he was like, I'm going to have to scale back. And I was like, no, I get it. If I was in your age group, I would do the same thing. I'm like, I'm trying to live. I'm not trying to go around people and get, catch something that I can't get rid of at my advanced age. And then, it's like, oh, what happened to you? It's like, oh, I went to jiu-jitsu class today, got sick from everybody else that was sick there, and it's like, nah, I don't want to do that. Well, brother, thanks for coming in. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on that I didn't touch on?
Well, maybe just one thing, and that would be just general awareness of spinal health.
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't put much thought into, right? If we think of brain health, if we think of heart health, that's where a lot of people's resources go to when it comes to, creating a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
And I think that spinal health is just simply not being considered. And I think that with 100 years ago, no one would have been predicting that most people would have desk jobs. Most people would spend 10, 12 hours a day, in a sedentary position, watching TV on the couch and just not doing much for their spines. And
Hey,
I think
stop talking about me.
I'm not trying to call you out, but see, this is so common.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I think just having that awareness of spinal health, like dental health, where it doesn't have to be a 30-minute commitment every day, but as long as we commit a couple minutes each day,
Yeah.
the same way that we commit to brushing and flossing our teeth, to move our spines through its full range of motion, so many issues would be resolved. If we don't use it, we lose it. So
Right.
if we don't use our spines, we're going to lose the ability to function. So, that's just the main thing that I'm passionate about outside of the philosophy of healing and everything we've talked about. I share with every single person that comes through our doors about general awareness of spinal health. How do you keep your spine healthy? Why is
Right.
it so important?
Do you have a like an exercise or a movement that you would just throw out there for the general thing, not anything too specific, but something that would hit the full range of motion for the spine that
Yeah.
people can do at home?
Totally. This is what I do this every single morning, first thing when I wake up and right before I go to bed. It takes 90 seconds. It's fairly simple. So all it involves is taking your spine through 3 different motions. And so the first motion is going to be forwards and backwards. The second is side to side. And then the third one is going to be rotation. So that first motion of forwards and backwards, it's not necessarily bending down to touch your toes. All it is, you're doing like a cat-cow, but you're like in a seated or standing position. So you're caving in your chest, you're moving your spine through its end range, and then you're extending back up, sitting straight, looking up, curling your spine the other way. And so it's not a stretch, it's not something that you have to do to failure, but it's more so how can we just use that motion, right? The second one is just moving side to side, involving your whole spine once again, even the neck. And then the last one being a rotation. So you rotate, with your torso. The thing about these exercises and these movements, they're so simple, a lot of people will overlook them. I tell every person that comes in, you got to do this twice a day, every day, 10 reps on each side. And, people just won't do it because they're like, yeah, it's so simple. But the thing is, if you take it through its full motion in each direction, that's what your body needs. The other thing that's interesting is after I do it, I feel more awake. And that makes sense because 90% of the sensory information that goes to our brains comes from our spine. So if we're sleeping, right, a lot of the brain right when we wake up is not firing, our body hasn't moved in a while. So when we take our spine through its full range of motion, we feel a lot more awake.
Right.
So that's just, a simple thing. Takes 90 seconds to incorporate. I tell every person that comes in to start doing that.
Yeah, and if you're going to the gym anyway,
Yeah.
make that part of your warm up or your cool down. Where can the people find you? We have GoodLife Chiropractic. Where is that?
Yeah, so that's in Ogden, Wilmington.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty close to the YMCA. There's an ice skating ring and a Publix right around the corner.
Oh, yeah, all right. Are you in the Publix thing or are you
Across the street.
across the
from it.
street over
Yeah,
there? Okay.
Yeah, so there's, it's called Ogden Business Lane.
Oh, I know. That's right there where the skating thing is, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, yeah. I know where you're at.
So we're right there, and if people want to check us out on Instagram or Facebook, you'll find us GoodLife Chiropractic.
Awesome.
So simple as that.
Sweet. Well, brother, hey, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure doing this.
Oh, this is fun, man. Like I learned a lot.
Love that.
Oh, I love to learn, dude.
Yeah, thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, man. We'll see you. I guess we'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right.